Okay, we are live on Facebook. We are broadcasting.
Great. Good evening, everybody. Nice to see you all. We're here on a Wednesday evening for a special conversation and some music from Keith Johnson. I just want to introduce briefly Kate Jewett-Williams, who is our tech person, and I want to just thank Kate for all of her tech support. She'll be behind the scenes tonight, so thanks so much, Kate, for setting this up for us. And so we are here as part of BorderLore Live and the Southwest Folklife Alliance to celebrate the work of our traditional artists and culture bearers in the state. And so we're so excited to be here tonight with Keith Johnson, a percussionist, a storyteller, a textile expert, an instrument maker. And we're gonna listen to him together, and we're gonna talk a little bit about music and instruments and resilience. We're also really pleased to have ASL interpretation this evening. So Keith, you got something for us?
Drums are very important in West Africa. It is a means of communication, the tonal language of the people. When you hear the drum, it automatically makes you think you want to dance, you want to sing, you want to be a part of the communication in the village. Outdoors can travel in the wind up to 1 mile from where you're playing because the drum sound is carried in the wind. Drums are used for communication. They're used for healing. It's a way that we remember the ancestors, those who have come before us. You see, the sound reminds us of the three spirits that create the drum. The animal skin from the animal, the carver who selected the wood, and also the blacksmith who made the rings for the drum. So always remember the ancestors who've come before us, the three spirits of the drum.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Keith. Great. And so you were playing a djembe right there, right?
Yes, djembe. This one is from Senegal.
Great. So tell us how you became a musician. Where were you first exposed to music? How did you follow that path?
Well, I grew up in Washington, D.C. area, and there you have something called the Folklife Festival. When I was a young boy, they would come and bus us to downtown Washington, D.C. to many of the festivals that would come into fruition because of all of the embassies. I actually had an opportunity to see the Watusi tribe dance. And after seeing them drum and dance, I said, I want to do that. That looks like fun. So in the understanding of learning the culture, I got a chance to be exposed very young to a man named Yaku Adi. And he was part of the Adi family that came from Ghana. So that exposed me to learning more about the traditional music and folklore of West Africa.
And so did you start, what instruments did you start with?
Well, learning from him, I actually learned the iron bell, and then I progressed to the keti drums, which is the drums played in the ceremony that they use for the great kings. So the kete drums is something that was very important to learn hand and stick, and another drum called the palongo drum. So those were my beginning of understanding the traditional music found in West Africa.
And then eventually you traveled and followed some of your teachers, right?
Yeah, my experience started actually right out of high school. I started doing USO tours for the Department of Defense, and I was exposed to Latin music. So I worked with a band that took me to Cuba and Puerto Rico and places that I could learn the congas and the bongos and the timbales. So I started to understand the Afro-Cuban and Afro-Puerto Rican rhythms that exposed me how the link to Africa continued.
And then you went to Ghana?
Yeah, I had the opportunity to go with my teacher named Uncle Sike Gagno, and I went with him to Accra. From there, I went to Cape Coast and Kumasi to learn the language and understanding of the Ashanti people found in Kumasi. He was Ewe, so I learned the Ewe sound from him. But as I traveled, I realized that there were so many languages spoken in West Africa, in the country of Ghana. That's when I picked up, where can I learn more of this? And it was just amazing because it's a lifetime and a journey.
And what was it about those drums in all those places that, you know, that sang to you or spoke to you or played to you?
One of the things that was interesting is when they told me that the drums actually spoke a tonal language. So when they played the drums, they could play it to where the people in that region, like in Ghana and Accra, he could play on the drum a certain rhythm, and the children all come running, bringing him water, because he told them he was thirsty and for them to bring water. So we actually witnessed him playing the drum and then bringing the water, because on the drums, it told them what to, the tonal language, so it told them what to do. So what is amazing is in Ghana, there's over like 50 to 100 languages. And it's amazing that their tradition has so many different dialects that you can say the same thing in all of those different languages. What I was fascinated by is when they would talk, they speak all of the language and then they answer me in English. So I was the last one to know what was going on.
Right. Right. And so we know that with traditional knowledge, it's passed usually person to person by doing. Can you talk a little bit about your studies and how that transmission happened for you?
Well, I was very fortunate that I could sit with master drummers and they would enlighten me how important it was to keep the tradition. The tradition is what's handed down by the elders from generation to generation, so that what you learn, your wisdom, has helped you understand the tradition of folklore. When you have the opportunity to study with a master, they teach you things that you don't get from just ordinary people, because they have the folklore in the sense of telling you the story that goes along with your traditions. For instance, the drum beside me here, this here is a carved face. This is an Ngoma drum. It comes from Zimbabwe. But I studied with a man named Babatunde Olatunji, and he had a series of Ngoma drums that he used and played in his concerts. So being here, he was from Nigeria, and he began to teach me the Yoruba language on the drum and also in traditional singing. What's amazing is having the opportunity to travel to Senegal. And Senegal, you have Dakar, and you have the Wolof language there. But in Mali, you go to the Bamako, and in Mali, they speak the language of Malinke and Bambara. So all of those different languages are translated on the drums. So you begin to understand there's so much language and so much wisdom for you to learn.
That's beautiful. Yeah, and every rhythm has its dance also.
Oh, absolutely. There's a connection between the drummer and the dancer. It's universal. It becomes one with the dance and the drum because the drum tells the dancer what to do, to turn, to stomp, to jump. And in their language, they understand what they're saying on the drum. So it is a wonderful match that they have. That is a tradition that goes back for thousands of years.
Yeah, that beautiful conversation between mover and percussionist. I love that.
Yes, they both accentuate each other.
And tell us where you're sitting in front of this beautiful kente cloth. Do you want to tell us a little bit about this piece of fabric that you have there?
Yeah, one of the things I was very fortunate to do in Ghana was watch the weavers create the strips of kente cloth. They would take the strings of the yarn, the cotton yarn, and they would have it about 50 feet away from them. And they would start early in the morning and they would weave the cloth back and forth so that by the evening, that 50 foot of cloth was close to them and they had strips of the kente cloth. So that was an honor to see and understand how much work goes into weaving the kente cloth. What I have behind me is from the Ewe people. This is what they wear as cloth for a fugu. So they would drape it around them and wear it. And I was very honored that I was able to hand carry some pieces back from Ghana that I fell in love with. I told everybody it was my blanket.
It's an awfully beautiful blanket.
Yeah, but I knew what they were. They were kente that they would wear for the fugu. And the beautiful thing about it is each one of those patterns have a specific meaning. They're not just art, but they're art with meaning. And once you understand certain cloth is only worn by certain people. Here in America, we wear anything we want. But in Ghana, you have to be of that tribe to wear that fabric.
And what about what you're wearing now?
Well, what I'm wearing now is a piece from Nigeria. This is called a shoke cloth, and it's hand-woven cotton with lurex thread woven in. That's the shiny fabric or the shiny thread that's woven into the cloth. Mm-hmm. And what amazed me is I've never met a piece of ashoke I didn't like. So I like lots of ashoke. It's a beautiful cloth and it's an honor to wear it. So I feel very blessed that I found something that became part of my niche because I got into textiles while I was there in Africa.
You probably had heavy suitcases coming back.
Oh, I learned the hard way how heavy fabric is when you're traveling. My pieces wasn't as heavy when I traveled there. When I came back, they were quite heavy. So I had to pay lots of duty on my weight.
So Keith, you're a collector of sounds and fabric, and it's not just the drums that you play other instruments. And how did you follow those sounds and how to start playing those?
Well, my interest became varied because I found out about the thumb piano and I play piano. So when I saw the African traditional piano, I had to learn how that works so that I can continue how it coexists with the piano we play with the 88 keys that are black and white, but this is the beginning of it, this particular style of thumb piano. In the early days, they called it the kalimba, but it has many, many names. It's the yunga yunga in some dialects. In South Africa, it is called the mbira. So when you use it, it sounds like this. Now they have a gourd that is used that puts it inside. So when you play it inside, it amplifies it. It looks like this. So now the sound is going to change drastically. We use this instrument to tell stories. And being a storyteller, it's always a moral at the end. There's a little girl named Amma. Amma was born on a Saturday. She would love to sing. Ah-yo, ah-yo, yo, yes. As she was walking along, she heard someone cry out, little girl, please help me. Amma looks around. She didn't see anyone. So she continued walking and singing. Ah-yo, why-yo, yo, yes. This time she heard it again. Please, please, little girl, please help me. You see, my tail is caught under the rock and I can't get free. Amma looks and sees, you're a snake. I'm not coming near you. You're gonna bite me. Amma says to the snake, the snake says to Amma, I'm not gonna bite you. You're my friend. You're gonna help me get free. So Amma says, are you sure you're not going to bite me? The snake says, no. How about it, you guys? Would you help that poor snake? Or would you leave that snake caught under the rock? But being a girl of Amma's descent, she has lots of compassion. So she looked around for a big stick, a stick she could place under the rock. And she pried and pried and pried. And she asked the snake one more time, "Are you sure you're not gonna bite me?" And the snake says, "No, I'm not going to bite you." So she got the stick and she pried it under the rock. And finally the snake was free. Then she took and pried even more, and finally the snake cries out, "I'm free, I'm free, I'm free." And with his very last free, he bit Amma on the leg. Amma cries out, "You said you wouldn't bite me. You said I was your friend." In the country of Ghana, they have bracelets twisted in the likeness of the snake in copper, silver, and gold to remind little boys and little girls, always listen to your mother.
Beautiful. That's great.
It is always important that we have a moral at the end of the story, because we always say, one who never travels think his or her mother is the best cook.
Wow, that's fantastic. Thank you. I have hit my video, but now I can't get back. So I'm trying to come back to you.
No problem. I can see your lovely smile.
Awesome. Well, I don't know how to come back, but let's see. There we go. Okay, cool. Oh, that was so fantastic. I love just hearing you play and hearing that story is wonderful. And so for a long time, you brought those stories and this kind of performance into schools. You want to talk a little bit about your life as a teacher?
Yeah, I'm known as a teaching artist, where I go into the public schools and communities and libraries and create the ambiance of being in West Africa. I call it a journey to West Africa. And it's so that you can have the opportunity to dance, sing, and play instruments. What I try to do is preserve the culture of West African folklore, so that I can bring my costumes in and dress you up and have you to carry a basket on your head. And it's experiences like that that you never forget, because in growing up, I had students when they were third graders and fourth graders. I seen them as adults, and they come to me and say, "Hey, I know who you are. I remember when you came to my school." So it's amazing how so many years go by and you see them now as adults, and it shows how young you're getting, if you know what I mean.
I do.
But yeah, it's one of those things that I had the opportunity to work with ASU and their program through the TAP, which is the teaching artist project they have for Molly Blank, ASU's funding form, and they have to take us into the schools. So I did something called the Kennedy Center program, where I went through their process of how to become a Kennedy Center artist, but through Molly Blank. So I'm a Molly Blank ASU teaching artist. I also work with preschool, working with Wolf Trap in Scottsdale, having the opportunity to work with a variety of organizations that continue to help preserve the culture and also to share with children of all ages. And then I had the opportunity to work with senior citizens, where I go in and we do drumming circles with them. But right now I have to do it through Zoom. So I'm doing it in a different manner. but it's a wonderful opportunity to share culture from around the world. And some of the things that happen are very magical because you never know what you're going to do when you're there. And then all of a sudden, the magic starts to happen. And you watch them smile and get a chance to do hands-on activities. So it's a wellness program for socializing and working with from 3 and 4-year-olds to 97-year-old grandparents. So I feel very blessed to do what I love.
That's so great. I love how you said you don't always know what's going to happen, but if you show up, the magic happens. That's very much of a artist, improviser, musician, payer attention person. You know how to make the thing happen or create the space for that.
Yeah, it's a matter of making sure they're engaged. And that's how it is for me. If you engage them in something, then they're most likely to want to be a part of it. And sometimes they just want to sit and observe, and that's okay too.
Mm-hmm. So you're a storyteller, you're a percussionist, you play key instruments, and you also make instruments. So
yes,
a bit about that.
Some of the things I do are with a gourd or a calabash, and I weave it by putting on the beads. One of the things that I learned is I have an integrated curriculum where I got math, science, and social studies. I teach so that when the children are with me, they actually make instruments they can take home. So there's a variety of instruments that they can make. A lot of it is recyclable products. And that's the key to them having an opportunity to work with me and be able to take a skill home that is very important for them.
Yeah. So you make the shakerays with the gourd, and then
Yeah, I make the shakerays with the gourd, and also I have some of the creative materials by recycling corrugated cardboard and then turning it into a rain stick. Beautiful.
Do you have one there to show us?
I can run and get it. It's just right here.
Okay.
Okay, give me a second.
Sure. Recycled materials into musical instruments. And while we're waiting for Keith to come back, I'll mention that, of course, Keith is a recipient of our Master-Apprentice Artist Award, which is what we give out. We give out these awards every year to tradition bearers and artists in the state of Arizona. And it's direct support to the artist and any apprentices that he or she might be working with. And so we do have a deadline for that award coming up in July 1st. If you know of any tradition bearers or artists in your community who are working to pass on a traditional art form or a heritage practice, those nominations are due on July 1st. I'll also mention that at this particular moment in time, we are doing a fundraiser for some of our traditional artists in the state who have been hit hard by the coronavirus. So we have a GoFundMe that you can donate to that provides direct funding to artists and culture bearers in our state for that purpose. So I wanted to make those brief announcements, and now Keith is back with some more things to show us.
What I have is a small gourd that is created by children. These are what they create. Every triangle is 15 beads, so they have to do their multiplication. So this is how I teach through an integrated curriculum. So these gourds come from Casa Grande. So I get a kick out of going down to Casa Grande and them sending me the gourds back home. So this is one style. And I like being colorful because I like various colors to create the art so that the children can understand that each of these colors are very important to how we create things in Africa. My favorite one is my large calabash that I made from down in Casa Grande. This one has the triangles and the diamond patterns. And if you look at it this way, you can see that it has the triangles going in that direction. And then also the same on the bottom, the triangles going in the direction. And then everything else is all created with the diamonds.
That's fantastic.
So I sit in tie knots. This is 1,250 beads.
Wow. That's a meditative process right there, huh?
Absolutely. You know, we say in Africa, if you have busy hands, you have a busy mind. If you have idle hands, you have an idle mind. My other one is created, is a rainmaker.
Wow.
And this is tinted cloth that I covered it with. So it looks like it came from the store, from the Mercado. And it's very relaxing. You have popcorn kernels hitting toothpick. That's what creates the sound.
Does that also summon the rain, Keith?
No, I don't think it's a rain caller.
Okay.
I like to use it as a ganza that they use in Brazil. So it has dual purpose. But I love the sound of the rain.
We really need some.
So when you're working with children, you always want them to have something that is animate and inanimate so that they can take it home with them. And they have the opportunity to remember that situation that they had or that experience, so that it's a positive one for them to encourage them to, you know, many hands make a light workload, and we come together to work together. So that's the reason for me doing what I do. One of the things that I'm amazed by is I've been studying an instrument called the Cora, and a Cora is a 21-string harp. This instrument is used by the griots and the jollies. This particular one came from Mali. This was one of the ones from one of my teachers, and I was able to get it from him and use it so that I could continue my studies as a storyteller. The African Cora.
That's so beautiful, Keith. It sounds a little like rain and also kind of like a lullaby. So,
Yeah, it's something I'm still working on. It's a work in progress.
I
I'm
love it.
constantly learning. It's an instrument I started when I was in Ghana in 1994. And then I went back to Senegal and I sat with a man named Kendra Sosoko. And Kendra didn't speak any English and I didn't speak any French. So we communicated through just suggestions of how to tune it in a diatonic scale. So I ate croissants and brought coffee and we sat and communicated as musicians do.
That's so great. Yeah, just all that gets transmitted even without language or a different kind of language.
Yeah, he let me film it too. So that helped a lot, that I could hear him playing the diatonic scale and I could bring it back home and practice until I got it down.
One thing that I'm thinking about listening to you play and talk is just how many generations these instruments and these sounds and these stories have moved and traveled through time. I wonder if you might talk a little bit about the idea of resiliency and how these things have been kept alive and, you know, what we can learn from them about our own resiliency.
Well, I'm one who believes that if you communicate, communication brings understanding. Understanding brings peace, and peace brings love. What we need in the world today is to be able to share love and peace and communication so that we can get a better understanding of each other. You know, we're more alike than we are different. It is the elements of life that keep us going: food, shelter, and clothing. And every culture of the world has those three things in common, that we all be a part of the human race. You know, and understanding how this pandemic has changed our outlook on life. It has brought many of us together in a different light. So being able to understand each other by being able to wear that person's shoes, but not literally, but understanding that, you know, they may be a bigger foot, but when you put them on, you realize we're going in the same direction. So why not pick each other up and help each other along the way? You know, I call it PMA, a positive mental attitude. The glass is half full that's keeping you staying optimistic as opposed to the glass being half empty, you know? So you always try to see the positive things in every situation. I was with a group of children yesterday and they wanted to play the drums. So I said, of course, you can play the drums. You just have to wear gloves now and wash your hands when you're done. The whole idea is to share that experience. I've been cooped up in the house, so I know what it's like. So now to get a chance to go out and drum with children and drum with people is a wonderful thing. It's an opportunity to continue to preserve and share the culture. You know, it's important that we have groups like Southwest Alliance to bring people together to see that we're more alike than we are different. And we have more things in common than we are different. So it's just, again, you guys continue to stay positive, and that brings positiveness all around you. You know, it's important to preserve your culture because you remember from whence you came and how things have changed. And in a lot of ways, they really haven't changed that much. They're still the same. We still need the same way to survive. So those things become important. Always communicate, always talk to someone. That way you can get a better understanding, you know, and those things are important. One of the things that blew me away is I was listening to a song by Stevie Wonder and Love's in Need of Love Today. When I heard that song, I was like, wow, he was so far ahead of himself. It was amazing. So it's those positive artists and artistry that we do through music that captures our soul and takes us to another level of understanding.
Thank you. That's great.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love that. PMA. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I use that one all the time with all of my students. So they have to learn PMA and they have to learn the 3 C's: coordination, concentration, and creativity. So that's what it takes to do anything in life. Those 3 things: being positive, mental attitude, but again, it takes concentration, coordination, and creativity. So all of those things is what makes your life very special.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, I didn't look at it until I was working with some children and I realized, man, I'm learning something from a 3-year-old. This was amazing. He came up with a problem shooting that I would have never thought of in my 30 years of teaching. And it was amazing. And I give him props for it.
There's so many things, surprising things, people we can learn from. On that note, is there anything that any particular lesson that you feel like one of your instruments has taught you?
Every instrument teaches me. I play the Caribbean steel drums because I play the piano. The steel drum is set up in a cycle of fifths, so it's a completely different way of looking at playing the instrument like a piano. Because it was created in the early 40s and 50s, it is an instrument that has taught me a lot about music from around the world, because I can play classical pieces, I can play pop, I can play movie themes, and also it gives me the opportunity to create music of my own. So I call it Afro-Caribe, mixing Africa and the Caribbean together. So it begins to teach me a completely different style of artistry. And it's also a constant challenge because it makes me think about music in a different way.
That's been just amazing on one drum that you can glean so much wisdom. Yeah.
Well, it's because it comes in so many different styles. You have the tenor pan, you have something called the double seconds, then you have the cellos, then you have the guitar pans, then you have the bass pans, then you have them in, the basses are 6 different drums. Wow. The cellos are 3 different drums. The quads are 4 drums. So all of the different artistry that is used to create it, you actually have the voice of a full orchestra. So you have to learn all those different parts. So right now, I've been very fortunate that I met the man, Elie Manette, who created the steel drum. He lived here for 21 years in Arizona. And I met one of his students. He also now lives here building steel drums in Goodyear. So that gave me the opportunity to continue to learn and understand how it's important to learn an instrument that has definite pitch, like a piano.
I wanted to ask you, Keith, just, in our last few minutes together, if what you make as an elder and someone who's seen a lot in this country, I wondered what you're making of what's happening on the streets these days with this change in the wind. I'm wondering how you're responding to it.
Well, again, I stay positive. A lot of the things that's going on is things I live through daily. So it's not nothing new to me in the sense that we've always prayed for change. We thought change were going to come again with Obama, but all that did is show people where they were really thinking not so positive all the time. And because we realized that in this situation, you have to be able to look at life as going forward, not looking back into the past. In order to go forward, that means you have to do things that helps other people and not feel that everyone is out to get you. I had to realize that being here and living as an artist, I'm living my dream. And all the people that I encounter is part of that dream. In order to make that dream into fruition, I have to use a different approach of how I approach people and how people approach me. You can never please everybody all the time, but you can do all you can to make life better for someone else other than yourself, who may not be in the same predicament as you. And that's what I had to learn, is that you pull people up, you don't tear them down. And that's what I see as important to me, how I live my life as an artist. I look at it as, if my hands are open, then I can grasp things. If my hands are closed like a fish, I can get nothing. So it makes me look at it, my hands are always open. I'm always trying to help my neighbor. I'm always trying to understand my neighbor. Not everyone can live the dream that I have. So what I have to do is make sure I keep my eyes open and clear, and also try to do what I can to help other people and try to help in a positive way so that they don't think that, he's trying to be nice to me. But no, this is my nature. I learned when I was in the country of Ghana. I walked past a house 3 times, and these group of men were sitting under a tree. And they said, "Hey, you, come here." And I said, "Yes, I know by the tone of the voice, I'm in trouble, but I don't know what I've done." He says, "You walked past me first time, you no speak. You walked past me the second time, you no speak. You in Ghana now. When you in Ghana, you speak to everyone." So that's my nature. I say hi. Even if they don't say hi back, it's fine. I said their hearing aid was turned down. So that's okay by me. I see the humor in it. So it's a matter of sitting down and understanding that it is important to acknowledge each other. It is important to know that if you go forward in a positive way, everything around you is positive. When you go negative in a negative way, all of those things are also negative around you. So you want to stay positive so you can come away from dis-ease and discomfort. So I look at it as, I understand what the young people feel, and I understand that we've been going through this for more than 400 years. This is not something that's going to come by easily. But I do love the fact that all people understand that all lives matter. Black lives matter. You matter. I matter. So those things are very important to our young people. And right now they see that there are many ways that we can change the world. And standing up to what you believe wholeheartedly is how you bring about change. So I'm all for change. Change is a good thing.
Thank you, Keith Johnson. That seems like a beautiful note to end on. Do you want to play anything to close us out this evening?
Sure, I'll play some more African drum.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you.
This was awesome. And you say I can follow it on Facebook?
You can find it on Facebook. That's right. We'll send it to you.
Awesome, awesome.
Thank you, Keith. It was a wonderful.
Have a blessed one. It was my honor. So remember Zulu, Niwa Wechi.
Niwa Wechi.
May God take you and bring you safe till we meet again. Thank you.
Thank you.